Welcome to the tutorial on defining public records and FOIA. This tutorial will discuss what public records are and what the Freedom of Information Act is. We will also discuss how that act can help you gain access to public records. Public records are those records that are required to be maintained, created, or filed by the government, whether it be the local government, state government, federal government, or a government agency run by one of those branches of the government. Public records can include, but are not limited to, birth records, death records, marriage and divorce records, court cases, both civil and criminal, as well as arrest records, laws and proposed bills, as well as governmental budgets, expenditures, and revenues, property appraisals and ownership records, campaign records, census statistics, tax records for individuals and businesses, and business registrations, licenses, owners, and revenues. These documents are all made available to the public for inspection, examination, and copying because our nation was founded on the belief that the government should be accountable to the people. Our society also wants to be informed about the government's operations, so people want access to documents that the government uses. As a result, the Freedom of Information Act, otherwise known as FOIA, was enacted in 1967. This act gives everyone the right to access and inspect most public records. The purpose of FOIA is to keep the government's actions transparent, as President Obama has noted, so that the American people can freely investigate the government's work. Anyone, including journalists, can submit a FOIA request to examine and copy public records by following the instructions for submitting such request. These instructions are posted on the FOIA.gov website. The U.S. Department of Justice and U.S. Department of State websites also have information guides and helpful forms for requesting specific public records. Because there are so many millions of records covered by FOIA, there is a specific government agency that oversees the disclosures. It is called the Office of Information Policy, or OIP. This office has the responsibility of ensuring that all FOIA requests are satisfied unless the request is for something that is exempted from FOIA. However, President Obama has said that if there is ever any doubt about whether a record should be disclosed to the public, then, quote, openness prevails, and the document should be released. With that said, there are still a number of records that are not required to be disclosed because they are exempt from FOIA, which means that they are not included in the Freedom of Information Act. Such exempted records include executive orders, which are exempted in order to protect national security, information that only relates to the government's internal personnel rules so that the internal workings of the government are not revealed to everyone, information that is prohibited from being disclosed by federal laws, such as some technical data the Department of Defense controls for military or space purposes, any government trade secrets or confidential business practices so that the government can continue to operate with the trade secrets or effective business practices it has created, government communications that are privileged legal communications, such as those communications a government agency has with its attorney when it's being sued, information that, if released, would invade the privacy of another person, such as medical information or social security numbers, information that, if released, would negatively impact law enforcement's ability to do its job, such as by revealing to someone that the police are about to arrest him, information about the government's supervision of financial institutions, such as bank examination reports prepared by state regulatory agencies, since they allow the federal and state banking authorities to stay connected, and finally, geological information about wells is exempt from disclosure as well, to protect the industry from speculators. Besides those 9 exemptions from FOIA, the public has access to all the government's records. However, the person who requests a public record may find that some information has been blacked out from the document or redacted from the record. This is done to ensure that no exempted information is released in the public document. For example, if someone has a social security number printed on a document, then that would be blacked out, but you would be able to obtain the rest of the public record for your own inspection. Since it can take a lot of time for the Office of Information Policy to process all the FOIA requests that are sent in, determine if each individual request is for a record that can be disclosed, redact any necessary information from the document, and then disseminate the public record, FOIA requests are known to take a while. Therefore, if you need to do a FOIA request, you also need to plan ahead and submit it early. If you're ever curious about how many requests for public records the government has received, how backlogged OIP is, or anything like that, then check out the FOIA.gov website, which will also tell you how many FOIA requests have been granted. Sometimes you can get quick responses to your FOIA requests from local government agencies. Local agencies are actually terrific sources of information because they usually have the biggest impact on people's day-to-day lives. As a result, you should always consider whether you can get the information you are looking for on a local level from your town, county, or city, or its departments, bureaus, or agencies, so that you can obtain locally relevant information in a quick time frame. With time and practice, you'll get used to determining what is a public record and used to using FOIA to access those records. Thank you so much for listening, and good luck researching public records.